I am going to be today making actually a raw broccoli salad. So I really love to use raw cauliflower and raw broccoli, and it's sometimes a little bit more difficult for people to digest it. So what I love about this salad is actually you want to let it sit for about like an hour in the fridge in this dressing, so it softens it up a little bit and it makes it a lot easier to digest. I also love using vegetables in its raw form because that's where the most nutrients are, right? It's obviously great to cook our food because it's delicious. We're still getting tons of nutrients, but we are stripping the foods away a little bit from the nutrients they had. So when we're using foods in its whole form without cooking it and putting it through any of those processes, we're actually getting all of the nutrients. So broccoli, especially raw broccoli, has very, very absorbable calcium. It has about 70 milligrams of calcium in a serving. So that's a really, really nice amount. It's very absorbable. And it's super delicious. Obviously, if you're cooking it, you're still going to get really great nutrients. You're still going to get calcium. But I love this recipe because you can use it in its raw form. So the first thing we're going to do is I already chopped up my broccoli, but we don't want to use the stems. The stems are actually the part that causes the indigestion and makes it a little bit more difficult to digest. So we're really going to just use the top of the floret. We're going to take the stems off. You can use the stems in a soup, in a stew or a sauce. You can just roast them, by themselves with some olive oil, salt, pepper, whatever spices you want, and use them for dinner or lunch, whatever it is. Use them in a salad. They're definitely great to use, but they're definitely a little bit more difficult to digest, which is why I like to just use the top of the florets rather. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is I don't like heavy amounts of red onion in my salad, raw red onion in my salad. So I did about a quarter of a red onion. You could use half a red onion. I think a whole would be a little bit much, but I did about a quarter of a red onion, chopped very, very thinly. And then the dressing also will kind of like pickle the red onions a little bit and make them, I think, take some of the intensity away. So we have our red onion in there. Then we're going to add some raw sunflower seeds. So sunflower seeds, as we mentioned, is a healthy fat. There's a ton of omega-3 fatty acids in there. It's just another great thing to add to the salad. It gives it a nice crunch, a little bit of a different texture, and again, some healthy fats, which is, we're always looking, to add some nutrients. And then the last thing we're going to do is some dried cranberries. You can do dried cranberries, dried cherries. You can do raisins if you prefer. Really, you do you. So do about a third of a cup of that. You can do more if you like it. There's tons of fiber in dried cranberries. Keep in mind, they are a little bit higher in sugar, so we don't want to overdo it, but adding some to your salad is definitely not going to harm you at all, but just something to keep in mind. Then we have our dressing. I made a little bit of it before, but I probably will need more. So I'm going to go through that with you. So we're going to do about a third of a cup of olive oil. And we always want to try to use olive oil for our bases dressings, again, because it's a healthy fat. And it's it's a pretty neutral flavor. Then we want to do about 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. You can use regular vinegar, but the apple cider vinegar definitely adds a nice flavor, especially with the Dijon mustard that we're going to use in a second. Then we're going to use some Dijon mustard, which, as I mentioned, goes really, really nicely with the apple cider vinegar. Flavors go really, really great. We're going to do about a tablespoon of that. You can use regular mustard if you want. I'd probably use a little bit less. If you were, maybe half a tablespoon. So we're going to do about a tablespoon of the mustard, about a tablespoon of honey. About a tablespoon of the honey. You can do some salt. I'm going to do a little bit of salt. And then I like to use the already minced garlic. You can find this in any grocery store. About the size of I would say a clove is good. That's what I like to use. I think it's really, really easy to use. And then that's the whole thing. I'm going to mix that up. We're going to first pour on the dressing that I had made already. And if I need more, I'll pour some more on. It smells so delicious. It pairs so nicely with the salad. Remember, we don't want too much of the dressing, but we want to make sure we have enough because the raw broccoli, we want it to absorb. We want the broccoli to absorb our dressing, right? We don't want it to be, we want to make sure that it all gets flavor. We want to make sure that it softens the broccoli a little bit. We're going to mix that up. You can take some gloves if you want to make sure it's all mixed together, or a spoon. So a little bit more of that. And then I would say probably about half hour to 45 minutes to let it sit, just to kind of let the flavors kind of blend together, let the broccoli soften a bit from the dressing. And that's really it. I made the whole thing right in front of you. It's so delicious, really delicious. It stays in the fridge for like 3 to 4 days. The broccoli definitely will get a bit softer by that 3rd to 4th day, but it's a good thing to keep it. It only gets softer over time. So really delicious, tons of calcium in there, tons of great nutrients. And yeah, that's really it.